Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to March Badness. We're going over the brackets here. These are the beginning brackets for the worst bills in the Commonwealth of Virginia that were passed by the General Assembly in 2026. We had so many competitors. We had so many contenders, but we could only pick 64 to start with, and this is the beginning brackets. Today, what we're looking at right here is the March Badness Senate ROVA bracket. Check out my 70-inch TV, the only way I could buy a TV without getting permission. This is bad boys going into my basement in the man cave as soon as we're done with this. But we thought it was important to give you this so we can talk about the highlights and the lowlights, mostly lowlights, of the bills that came out and made it to the bracket. I want to welcome my co-host, the man with the plan, the brainchild of this operation, delegate, former senator, former congressman, former vice presidential candidate, Tom Garrett. Tom, welcome.
I was vice president of the Holly Grove Ruatan, and that was a long time ago. And I lost.
I'm excited. I'm excited to be with you. It's almost like when we sat near each other in the Senate and we messed around and we got a lot done, but we had a good time doing it. I'm looking forward to this. Let's jump right into the brackets. This is an amazing bracket here. Again, Senate, rest of Virginia senators. We'll identify the senator, the team, the strength of each bill, and how we think it may travel along the path to the Final Four. So let's start with SB 1, located in the number 1 position, Senator Louise Lucas. Minimum wage, you've heard about it. This crushes small business. Basically, it changes the minimum wage law and raises the minimum wage into $15 an hour in the next year and a half. This is going to close down small businesses. We've seen what minimum wage increases have done in states like California to the hospitality industry, other small businesses. What's your take on this very strong number 1?
It is a strong 1 seed, Bill. I think the problem with this is that they paint the world with one brush and one color. That color, of course, is Soviet red. But what it does is it says that guy who's putting together hamburgers, who's 17 years old in his first job in Henry County, has the exact same needs and shall be getting those needs met as the person in Alexandria or Arlington. It also presumes that people are working minimum wage jobs to support families, which is largely statistically not the case. I want to highlight the strength, though, of Senator Lucas in this bracket. You got a rivalry here, Senator Stanley, and you know all about this, between Senator Lucas and Senator Mamie Locke. Lucas squeezes in 2 bills, but there are 1 and a 3 seed. Meanwhile, Senator Locke dominates the bracket, 4 bills into the field, a 2, a 6, a 15, and a 14. They're really competing to see who can be sort of the Marxist-Leninist queen of the Hampton Roads area. Both strong. I like Senator Lucas as a human being, super nice person. Senator Locke's kind of angry in my estimation. But I think this minimum wage bill smokes the competition in the first round and advances to the second. I don't think it's going to get into the Stanley Steamers competing for the Golden Turd Final Four, though, Senator Stanley.
I gotta agree with you. It's going up against the 16th seed, Senate Bill 725. A new senator came over from the House, kind of different from what you did there, Tom Garrett. Tom Garrett went from the Senate and then goes to the House. What we have is Reverend Jones comes from the House and now is a senator. Tech trust fund fee. Basically, it creates a trust fund fee for technology, but it doesn't tell you where that's coming from. That fee comes from somebody. Is it going to come from you, the taxpayer? Is it going to come from the businesses that we have in Virginia? Is it going to discourage businesses from coming into Virginia? I think this one made it because it's a fee. It's unknown who's going to pay for it. They're going to build a big kitty full of money in the general fund, and then they're going to decide for themselves where it goes. So this is a great unknown. So this is kind of a sleeper. It's the unknown. But I think Senate Bill 1 takes the cake. The first seed moves along. What about you, Tom?
You know, Senator Stanley, it's like Loyola and Marymount in the 80s, right? You know they got a style to them, a panache. But I want to make a couple comments. Senator Jones, formerly Delegate Jones, strong competitor for bad ideas in the House. He's really sneaking in with the 16 seed, and that's it. That's how deep the talent pool is and bad ideas in the Senate. Look, you give the government a pot of money that they snatch from someone else's pocket in the wake of leering centers and California hospice fraud. What could possibly go wrong? I think you're going to see some more bad ideas from Reverend Jones going forward. But yeah, he's going to lose to Senator Lucas in the first round.
Senate Bill 1 in a walk. We both agree on that. Let's go to the second bracket. We're talking about Senator Aaron Rouse, right now an injured NFL football player, but he comes strong to the hoop when it comes to these bills. He had a lot this year. He makes it into the 8th seed with his least noncompliance. And let me tell you something, Tom. Least noncompliance basically fundamentally addresses the relationship between landlord and tenant. When there are violations of the lease terms between that relationship of landlord and tenant, alters the notice requirements, the enforcement requirements, the cure and eviction triggers, and tenant remedies. It really favors our tenants, not the landlords, especially. So what this does is allows a tenant not to pay his rent every month. And quite frankly, gumming up in the court system, these things will linger in the court system. It really discourages the business of landlord law and renting places. When they talk about affordability and housing, quite frankly, this is a stinker, and it's a real contender for the Final Four. Then we've got it going up against Eric, which puts us back into the electronic. I have notes about this because I had to write it down because it's so silly, but it basically puts us back into the electronic registration for elections. It was supposed to actually call the rolls, make sure that elections were more efficient, that dead people didn't vote, but it was founded by a left-winger who actually has made it even worse, and it's gummed up the works. Governor Youngkin decided this was not good for Virginia, took us out of it. The minute Governor Youngkin starts up his Dodge and drives out of the executive mansion, guess what? We're back into Eric, and it costs money as well. Tom, what do you think about this bracket?
If Eric has a grinder profile, he's immensely popular, right? Because the Democrats just can't wait to get back into Eric. Look, I think ceding our election authority to outside entities, big tech, with a clear left bias is going to beat out least noncompliance. Senator Stanley, look, Senator Rouse, good effort here. There was so much least noncompliance, landlord-tenant stuff this year. It's all bad. It drives up the cost of housing for sure. But let me just delve for a second into Senator Schuyler Van Valkenburg. Senator Stanley, when I'm down in blue, when I'm having a rough day, sometimes I just like to say, Schuyler Van Valkenburg. I think if Dawson's Creek had a Bond villain, he would be named Schuyler Van Valkenburg. So, just on the weight of the name alone, I feel like Van Valkenburg's Eric may sneak into the next round, that 8-9 seed. Whoever wins that game, Senator Stanley, is losing to Senator Lucas's SB1, I think, in the next round.
I'm going to go with Senator Rouse. He's got a court case going on right now, but he's a competitor. I'm going to go with least noncompliance. It's going to have a devastating effect on the housing market. I'm going to say the 8 beats the 9 seed. Let's drop down to the next bracket here. This is what I called a Stanley Steamer, a real dark horse, but also I think a big fat winner. It's going to get into the Final Four, might be in the championship round. We have right here, weapons in hospitals, Senate Bill 173, Senator Williams-Graves. We talked about this in the preview, Tom. This bill does not allow a police officer who's not in uniform, and many times when they take somebody on a TDO, a medical emergency, mental health emergency, a crazy person, they're taking them in the hospital, they're taking them into the mental institution for evaluations pursuant to a court order. If they're not dressed up, the police often don't dress up in their uniforms when they're delivering these patients to the hospital for the evaluations, the mental health evaluations, because they don't want to draw attention to the matter, and especially to the person that's on the TDO. So they go in without their uniforms. Guess what? They go in without their uniform, Class 1 misdemeanor. Not only that, I asked the patron, did she mean to create the exception where the police officer and private citizen cannot walk into a hospital or a mental health facility with a firearm, even if they have a concealed carry. But what her bill allows, believe it or not, is the crazy man to walk in with a firearm, not be dispossessed of it, and the crazy man is not committing a crime, cannot be convicted of a Class 1 misdemeanor. I got to tell you right here, weapons in hospitals, you can't have a weapon if you're a police officer, but if you're crazy, bring your Glock. This one's going to be strong. It's going up against local employment, 430. When you look at that, that's our man right there, Lamont Bagby, DPVA chairman, won the last election. Got to give it beat Mark Peake, so he's strong when it comes to this stuff. This regulates local hiring, labor preferences and practices, and employment standards. What this does is affect how local governments and local businesses hire workers. It also has a devastating effect on contractors and liability for contractors as well. This is one that I think is a sleeper as well. It mandates preferences in hiring. It's a real problem for a lot of small businesses. It's going to be a big problem for our local governments. What do you think about this bracket, Tom?
Man, this 5-12 matchup, Senator Stanley, really highlights the depth of the bad ideas in the field. A few things here. I think you, Senator Stanley, really illustrated through your analysis what impact coaching can have on a team in this tournament, right? When you bestowed the coveted Stanley Steamer Award on the Weapons and Hospitals bill and made the argument for why it was such a bad bill, I think you sold this bill. I think that bill is really a dark horse of mine to come out of this bracket. I had a thought, maybe if the crazy person can carry the weapon and the police officer can't, maybe the police officer could get the crazy person to carry his weapon into the hospital for him. This is the sort of logic that Democrats seem to want to use. But yeah, I just like that 5 seed coming out of here. Senator Williams-Graves has outdone herself. And so when we talk about this sort of rivalry between Senator Lucas and Locke, 2 real powerhouses in the Democrat sort of thought intelligentsia in Virginia, Senator Williams-Graves is not to be trifled with. She's got another bill coming up in the next bracket. Don't want to spoil it. That is just really, really strong as it relates to horrible ideas. I like the 5 seed, just like you do, Senator Stanley.
Yeah, I think that thing's going to go. It's going to carry itself right into the Final Four. I'm betting on that thing maybe getting in the championship round just in the breadth of what we're seeing here. Now, we get down. Williams-Graves got some more. When it came to the Second Amendment, she was relentless. She was not going to stop. She was the junior version of Senator Saddam Salim when it came to gun control measures. This is another one of them. Adds an additional tax to firearms and ammo of 13% on top of the sales tax already levied for the purchase of these firearms. 13% more. I think there's some constitutional concerns. You know, we have this constitutional amendment that says you cannot make a law that is special to one event or one person and not generally applied. This tax is not generally applied. And quite frankly, what it's trying to do is discourage the purchase of firearms. Like they didn't have enough bills to discourage the purchase of firearms. Let's add a 13% tax. Going up against Bagby. Bagby shows up again. Senate Bill 438. This expands in-person absentee voting to the second and third Sunday, the Lord's Day, immediately preceding an election. That will be allowed from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Sunday is a day of rest. You're putting more burden on our local officials to keep those doors open for that absentee voting or the early voting. This is a stinker of a bill right there, taking Sunday, which should be a day with your family, a day at church, and turning it into another early voting day. I've got to go with this one, ammo tax. Anything that's Second Amendment, they're trying to take away your Second Amendment rights. I don't believe that's constitutional. What are your thoughts, Tom?
That 4th seed's going to win this bracket. You mark it down, Senator Stanley, and it's going to be tough because you got Williams-Graves ammo tax running into probably Williams-Graves weapons and hospitals by crazy people bill in the next round, right? So you're going to have a 4-5 matchup that I think is going to determine the cream of the crop. It really shows the breadth and depth of Williams-Graves' thought as it relates to these bad ideas. I think to take a deep, deep run, I got to go with the 4 over the 13 here and tip my hat to Senator Williams-Graves. I think Senators Lucas and Locke need to be looking over their shoulders. Again, Schuyler Van Valkenburg, Bond villain, perhaps. You really got to up your crazy game, Schuyler. You're not coming out of this bracket. It's going to be the ammo tax.
Got to agree with you. Great analysis, Tom. Let's go on to the next bracket. What we're talking here is really a bracket which, quite frankly, we need to be looking at because it is a matchup between 2 titans, Senator Lucas versus Senator Locke. Gaming Commission, which is a bill that's already died, might resuscitate itself and resurrect itself in the budget. That's yet to be seen. But what we've seen over the course of time is we have allowed casinos, sports betting. We've allowed internet betting. We're allowing every kind of betting. If it's a vice, they're going to not only allow it, they're going to tax it. They're going to take that money and pay for their special projects over the next couple of years. But what you've got here is you've got Louise Lucas, chairman of finance, going against her seatmate and best friend, Mamie Locke, in eviction reduction. Gaming Commission would consolidate all of this stuff. Maybe not a bad idea, but it could have actually streamlined everything, but it didn't. It didn't win. It lost already. I don't have a lot of faith in that one moving on past Senator Locke's eviction reduction. 628, I do have something on it. It reduces evictions. Again, attacking the landlord to the favor of the non-paying tenant. It creates new restrictions and procedures and tenant protections that protect the tenant. Again, allowing the tenant extra due process to hold up the eviction process while they're not paying their rent. Quite frankly, it creates more notice requirements on behalf of the landlord, payment opportunities, curing opportunities. This is a bad bill for landlords. If it wasn't a gun that was being attacked in the Second Amendment that was being attacked this year in the 2026 General Assembly, it was landlords. Landlords, horns in a tail, bad people, not good people. Even though they're looking for affordable housing, seems like to me this one's looking for free housing. What do you think, Tom?
Oh, free housing sums it right up. Look, you're right though. This sub bracket to the Senate ROVA bracket tells the story of a generation of Democrat bad ideas. This matchup between Lucas and Locke in the first round is one for the ages. We get further down this bracket, Senator Stanley, we're going to see Senator Locke against Senator Locke, thus guaranteeing obviously that she gets one that advances. But wow, I mean, who made these brackets? Eviction reduction, I think, is going to win. I will say this: if there's a bill that expands our access to gambling, whether it's on our cell phones while sitting in our bathtubs, in a horse racing parlor, in a casino, whether it's in the middle school cafeteria because we've allowed iGaming to every single 14-year-old boy in Virginia, because what could possibly go wrong? You can bet if there's a bill involving gambling that Senator Lucas has got her hands on it. And this is another one of those where it's like, hey, well, it already exists, so we need to tax and regulate it, to which I say, well, gee, human trafficking also already exists. Should we tax and regulate that too? It condones bad choices. It even encourages them. I think it wins or it loses to eviction reduction, though. There is a hue and cry that is contradictory about affordability and affordable housing, all whilst destroying the means of production by which things like affordable housing come. Eviction reduction is Give Them the House Act. I just think that Senator Locke is going to triumph in this one in an upset, 14-3.
And I think I got to agree with you on that one. I don't think the Gaming Commission gets out of the first round. But then we jump down. The thing that confused me before is because it's Locke, it's Lucas. Locke has a clean energy MBT versus the 11th seat of Bagby, environmental justice. This is liberal crazy versus liberal crazy with two titans in the Senate. On the Democrat side, Locke's bill creates tax benefit and mandates tied to clean energy and removing what they call fossil fuels, which is a misnomer, as a part of the clean energy apparatus in the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's going to burden our homeowners, make our electric bills higher. It's going to make bills higher for businesses. Businesses that are here are going to have less incentive to grow, and businesses that are outside of here that were thinking about coming to Virginia aren't coming to the Commonwealth of Virginia because we have an environmental energy, clean energy agenda that's going full steam ahead. So what this also is clean energy versus environmental justice. This is a real barn burner too. Bagby's Senate Bill 425 builds environmental reviews and enforcement around equity and community impacts. We're talking about community impacts in underserved and underprivileged areas to make sure that they get the same kind of environmental justice that they're foisting on us down here in Southside and Southwest Virginia. I was actually a conferee on the bill when it came out, and it was different between the House and the Senate. I did not sign this. Environmental justice. I mean, even the title tells you it's going on. It's moving on. I got to go with that one. Environmental justice. The 11th seed beats the 6th seed. Locke loses. Bagby advances. What do you think, Tom?
I'm going to tell you what, while we're doing this, we're buying coal-powered electricity from West Virginia at an accelerated rate, right? So I think you got the metaphorical equivalent of Senator Locke saying, watch as I hug this tree, and then Senator Bagby saying, hold my beer. I wonder, because I think that the Clean Energy MVP, known to Army personnel as the Clean Energy Main Battle Tank, has this innocuous enough name. And so it's like the team in fuchsia and teal. They're ugly and, nobody really can understand the system they're running against environmental justice, right? When people look at this bracket, the sirens are going to be going off at a lot of different levels. And just the naming that the folks who did the bracket have done here may propel the lower seed, Senator Bagby, to the upset, I would say, over Senator Locke's 6th seed. They're both real Stanley steamers, steaming turds. Neither one of them, though, is getting out of this round to compete for the coveted golden turd because the breadth and depth of crazy is so incredible.
All right, we're getting to the last final two brackets in the Senate ROVA bracket in the March Badness. Let's go to these because we got the final one that you're really going to love. But here we got Aaron Rouse seems obsessed with making single-member districts for not only Virginia Beach, but also for other cities, counties, and towns when it comes to electing city council members, town board members. What he wants to do is not have large districts or at-large districts. He wants to make every single person have a single-member district. We did get one Republican vote. That was David Suderline, but the rest of the Senate Republican caucus voted no. We actually defeated this bill, but then we had to go back because then they were going to kill every single bill in the Republicans. So we had to go back and we had to pass this actually. It's going up against Creed Eads. Creed Eads finally makes it into the bracket. Guy that's been there forever, usually a reasonable fellow, used to be a pro-gun Democrat. That changed. You've got Creed Eads, the 10 seed, substantial risk orders. If you remember the red flag laws, that if somebody says you're dangerous, your neighborhood, your family member, your cousin says you're dangerous, the cops can go in and seize your firearms. This expands that. This expands the ability of the police to go into anyone's house and remove firearms based on something that is not substantiated. Then you got to go through court process to demonstrate that you're not a danger. This is a dangerous bill. It removes due process. I don't think it's constitutional to begin with. McCree certainly loves it. That one is a real barn burner there. Senate Bill 495 versus Senate Bill 51. I got to go with Cree Deeds. He knows what he's talking about. He knows what crazy is. He knows how to take firearms off of people without due process. Something unconstitutional. That's my big fat winner in this first bracket.
Single member districts, just like the Princeton offense of this bracket. It's pretty bad, right? But you really got to study on it to understand it. Coach Pete Carroll developed that over decades, and it's a bad bill. But look, substantial risk orders may win the prize. And you pointed out Cree Deeds has been around for a while. This may win the prize coming up against some of the Nova Senate stuff from Senator Salim. For most parts of the Bill of Rights violated by a single bill, right? You got your Second Amendment, you got your Fourth Amendment, you got your Sixth Amendment. Really, you could get into your right to counsel and a jury of your peers because there's a taking going on here. The substantial risk orders bill is gonna win that one in the 7-10 matchup. It does beg the question: who did the darn seeding? That one probably deserves a little bit higher seed. But yeah, that one's coming out. And this brings us really to a really good point to culminate, Senator Stanley.
Yeah, and this is it right here, the last bracket, the 2 versus the 15. And you know what? It's got 2 heavy hitters going up against each other, 2 senators going head to head. The problem is they're the same senator. So Senator Locke's got Senate Bill 162, restoration of felon voter rights, and Senate Bill 433. Senator Locke, when it comes to adjusting unemployment compensation. I'm going to tell you right now, Tom, I think this one is a lock, no matter who wins. Get it? Okay. Maybe not as funny as I thought it was. Felon voter rights. We've got a constitutional amendment coming up. Basically, it says that a felon, as soon as they finish their sentence, their rights are restored, regardless of whether they owe restitution to the victim, whether they're on probation, whether they violate their probation after they're released. Nothing like that matters. And I remember one of your fellow colleagues in the House saying, and I'm trying to quote it as best I can, when it comes to restoration of felons' rights, I don't really care about the victim. That's amazing. That's shocking. That's jet fuel in this one. Mamie Locke, Senate Bill 162. Then unemployment. It changes the unemployment laws, makes you more eligible, extends your ability to get paid unemployment benefits. Those unemployment benefits come from employers, allows you to sit there and not have to go get a job. It does so many things that makes it more likely or more incentivized not to get a job rather than to get off the unemployment rolls and get back to work. I got to tell you, I'm going with a 2 seed here. Restoration of felon voters' rights, very dangerous. But you know what they're trying to do? They like the illegal aliens voting, and they want those felons as soon as they come out voting because they believe that's a Democrat bloc. And I guess, too, to me, that says they're underestimating who that person is that comes out of prison, whether they're Republican. They just expect them to be Democrats. What's your take on that?
I mean, they're going to make everything that Republicans do into a felony sooner or later. This might backfire on them, right? So, look, Locke versus Locke, it's like she's like, hey, watch this bad idea. And then she tells herself, I'm going to hold my own beer. A wise, talented woman leader. I'm not talking about Senator Locke. Margaret Thatcher once said the problem with socialism is sooner or later you run out of other people's money. That sort of summarizes the extension of the unemployment, but the felon voting rights thing is going to win and walk the 2 seat over the 15. Congratulations to Senator Locke for getting so darn many bills in the field. She may be the high achiever so far. I mean, you got such an incredible top half of this bracket, Senator Stanley. I think it's all academic. I think Williams-Graves with the ammo tax and the weapons in hospitals comes out of this bracket to go on to compete for the coveted golden turd. What about you, sir?
I'm telling you, the Senate Democrats can play this year, and this bracket demonstrates that, especially Senate ROVA Democrats. They came heavy to the hoop with some really bad stuff, and it got out. And even when we were able to kill the occasional bill, they brought it back, resuscitated, and then passed it, and now it makes it to our board. This is a great bracket. You could see 1 or 2 of these make it to the Final Four. I'm very confident because I sat there in the Senate all day long and watched these bad bills go through. I also like saying von Valkenburg. Ryan McDougall leaves off the Von, and he just calls him Valkenburg. I'm telling you, he may not have a strong entry here in this bracket, but he's still somebody to watch later next year in the March Badness. But I got to tell you, strong bracket. It's really gonna. I think we're gonna see in the Final Four at least 1 or 2 senators' bills make it there into the championship round. To you. Close us out.
Lace them up, sports fans, and tune in. Share this just so your friends know how bad it is. And we've saved the worst for last. The golden turds on the line. A lot of Stanley Steamers to be handed out. The LVP, the Least Virginia Patron Award, to be handed out. I think Senator Locke makes a strong run here. Senator Lucas is, we kind of understand the system she plays. Williams Graves, a dark horse for that LVP. Folks, you got to tune in. More to come. Thanks, Bill.